Welcome to the Beretta Museum. This is one of the most awesome firearms collections in the world. We're going to be lucky enough to meet with the president of Beretta, Mr. Franco Berettta, and Jarno, one of the most knowledgeable people on the history of Beretta and firearms in general in the world.
That's a mixture of 1,200 pieces, including shotguns, rifles, and pistols. Manufactured not only by Beretta, but by some of the world's greatest gun makers.
It's quite a special experience, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a special experience because the place is special itself. Here there are grouped approximately 1,200 pieces.
The guns in this room date back to the late 1400s, not long before the Beretta company officially started in 1526. This room is a gun lover's paradise.
Dr. Franco, our president, represents in fact the 15th generation, and his son arrives today to the 16th generation.
I asked you to pick the gun that you like in this room. Of course there are many, and you've picked this, which is probably one of the most beautiful SO guns ever.
Yeah, I picked this SO10 for different reasons. Because the SO10 was a test if me and my father were able to continue the tradition of fine gun making after the success of the SO4, 5, 6. We wanted to challenge ourselves and our team to make the best gun possible. Together with a team of people, the most modern technique of manufacturing, and on the other side, the craftsmanship of gun making, to make something again really special. And this was the SO10. For my father's 70th birthday, I thought make him a special gun. But at the same time, the years that we were opening a store in London, our Beretta Gallery. And so I wanted to put together the passion of my father for the gun making and for hunting with the fact that Beretta was opening something in London to make something that was naturally a Beretta gun, but with some special feature that remember London and English tradition. And so I asked Ken Hunt, the famous engraver, to make something special. He accepted because it was for my father, but it was his last project. And so, out of a pair, he told me, I will make one. And so I say, Mr. Hunt, I need two because I'm giving to my father a pair. And so he told me, Franco, this is the project. One piece, I will do it with the passion of your father, so his dogs, and naturally our family home here in Gardone. And so I was expecting, I sent him two guns, and I was expecting to receive one gun back engraved and the other to finish. And on the contrary, he sent me two. So I have the pair that then we gave to my father for his 70th birthday. So I think this model, and especially this special gun, it's really the pinnacle of my father and myself work in the company, and the fact that was engraved by Ken Hunt when we were getting ready to open our Beretta Gallery in London. So I think this is our dream gun.
Let's take a moment to admire where these guns are kept. A custom gun desk modelled after the Beretta Villa itself. It's not only beautiful, but it has secret compartments, which means it's extra cool.
All right, so these are the oldest guns in the building.
And the oldest that we have found, certainly manufactured by Beretta. We are talking about two wheel lock system pistols and one flintlock Speaking about end of 1500, mid 1500 and 1600. So the systems are very different. Here you have watch work because it's like the mechanism of a watch inside. You have to charge it with a key, and then there is the pulling the trigger wheel that is rotating very fast, and the contact with the pirates generates the sparks. This one has the percussion type systems. Later on, Beretta introduced on the guns the new system with the percussion type. With the percussion type, there is also the born of the, let's say, commercial and civil shotgun.
Okay.
The one that we call today for field or for competition. Before, the guns were used for both purposes, for defense, for war as well, and for hunting, because the necessity to have the food every day.
So what were these pistols for?
These are for most surely for self-defense.
Okay.
So they have a long barrel because in the past there was the concept that longer barrel is equal to long range.
Yeah. So same thing happens today with sporting shotguns. Interesting.
Yeah, but it was a supposition because nowadays you have the chokes, for example, that can help to increase the performance and the range of a shotgun, and also the gauge or the caliber. In the past, they did not have the caliber.
Yes.
So there was the caliber, but not today, that was uniform according to specific rules that are declared and stated worldwide.
When did Italy get a proof house?
Italy get the first proof house more than 100 years ago. We are talking about 110 years ago. It was a proof house, not really the first one. It was a state proof house. But it seems that during 1500, under the Republic of Venice, in order to test the barrels, for example, the ones produced by Beretta, they used to test proof with reinforced ammunition or loads the guns produced in the valley before send them to the arsenal of Venice.
There is so much going on in this room, and I only wish I could share more of it with you. It is incredible. Hundreds of years of history refined and joined in unity. This isn't so much of a museum, but more of a shrine to gunmaking. Interestingly, at the back of the Beretta factory is a hydro plant that has been in place since 1913. Which now, along with other renewable energy, accounts for 45% of their electric energy needs. This long history of green thinking has led them to fitting water treatment plants to reduce the water consumption by 55 million litres a year. They have also halved their use of solvents and reduced their plastic packaging by well over 100 tonnes a year.
What's interesting about these is that they are pre-Damascus. And I was chatting to Jarno, and he's telling me about how Beretta became really famous for the strength of their barrels. And when the Venetians were fighting the Ottomans, their barrels didn't blow up so much. Their self-injuries were significantly lower. They wrapped the barrels, they wrapped the steel around a mandrel and just sort of welded the top. And it was only later on that they developed the Damascus, and we'll go and have a look at that now. But before we do, we need to behold this Beretta pistol. This is very shiny. That has a lot of diamonds. I did get told the number, but as you can see, it's just a lot of diamonds. What they have here is their move into Damascus, and this actually shows how Damascus is made. You get some bars, you split and you twist the metal, you then move over here to where you forge that metal together, beat it around a mandrel until you end up with a barrel. You then acid etch it until it looks like this. Come and have a look at this. This is absolutely beautiful. Whilst England really didn't believe in deep etching, and we went for that fine, smooth look, have a look at that. I think that is beautiful. And now we're going to take a big leap. That is a percussion muzzle loader. We're going to now move into the modern era, or something you'll all recognise, a side lock, side by side.
This is a classical example of the model that Beretta named 450. It was one of the first example in the Beretta production of hammerless, so no external hammer, but inside the receiver, and with side lock system. Side lock system was also used before with external hammer shotgun.
Why did it take them longer than, let's say, the English gun?
But let's say it's also a matter of fact of tradition, in the sense that in the past they were, at least in Europe and in the nearby countries, used to shoot with the single barrel shotgun.
Yep.
And also with the early over and unders that were just like a side by side, just put on the side. So the tradition also pushed Beretta, for example, to produce a flintlock shotgun till 1940s, because it was more convenient, because people did not have so much money to endeavor a new experience into the new technology at the time.
What was the economy like in Italy in the late 30s and early 40s?
It was after World War II, so people could start to work in the industries that were going into approaching the new machinery. For example, these are engravings that are still kept by hand, so craftsmanship was very high. To have the first industrial made shotgun, one of the earliest in Beretta, you have to wait for the year 1947, when Beretta patented the first ASC for the hunting environment, so it was a field shotgun, that it was also the forefather of what we have today in the competition sector, that it was the DT10 and the DT11. But at the time, in 1940s and 1950s, Beretta started to improve the mechanism, the locking system, in order to have a slender and low profile shotgun, but by still keeping the monoblock system construction.
The monoblock system came in
in 1910 in Beretta.
1910.
Okay, it was not an invention merely attributed to Beretta, but from another inventor, PPA, abroad. But let's say that the monoblock was introduced, enhanced and industrialized by Beretta from 1910 on. Beretta also boasted in the catalogs at the time, the commercial and sales catalog, that the monoblock was much more resistant than the chopper lamp construction or the demiblock, because they say they can hold the two tubes in a different manners than the chopper lamps, that they are just pushed together and with a quarter of the block just keeping on site.
That gun was beautiful, but one of my favorite guns Beretta makes is the SO series.
What does SO stand for?
Good question. The SO, there are many different suppositions.
Yeah.
So it stands for sovrapposto, the Italian word for over and under.
Yep.
It stands for sovrapposto Holland without the initial H, because the ignorance of the people here in the valley, they probably compared side lock system to the one that is true, because it's a side lock Holland and Holland type.
Okay.
And by the way, from Holland, they just kept the side lock system.
Everything else is very different.
The side lock system changed only with the launch of the SO9 and the SO10. But in terms of parts, okay, they improved the parts because they have less parts and less complicated than the Holland and Holland one. But let's say that we call also in the past catalogs Holland and Holland type side lock system. The problem was that Beretta could not pick the success in terms of style and design of the Holland and Holland side-by-sides, but Holland and Holland, from their side, they could not pick the success of Beretta in the over and under sector, because the over and under from Beretta, as you can see, was slender, slim, low profile receiver, thanks also to the locking system, the
And that's
crossbolt
deeper
one.
than a current production SO, or it looks deeper.
It looks deeper, yes, but it is also, you see, also the forend.
Yeah.
So it's much more, I think, presentable than the high receiver over
Like
and
some
under.
of those early
Okay.
prototype English over and unders that have.
Yeah. And also the tapered part of the demi block. Okay, this part here, it's one of the characteristics of the SO series. In fact, years later, from this prototype, we are talking about the mid-1960s, probably because we don't know the real story behind it, Beretta proposed to Holland and Holland to make their over and unders with the monoblock system. And the witness of this relationship and agreement with Holland and Holland just to produce one single piece, it's certified by one of our shotgun in the museum.
Should we look at that next?
Yeah, that it was specifically made for Holland and Holland, or Holland and Holland made it, we don't know, because also from the counter side they could not give any more specific information.
I think I might start just calling them.
So the first Holland and Holland, I think with the monoblock, I don't know if they were using the monoblock type in the over and under, side lock system, side lock, because the boss lock obviously is much more convenient for the price. I will show you.
So, how popular was the SO series? 1932?
1932, then from the first 3 series of the SO that lasted till almost the end of 1970s, Beretta restarted with a quite good success, launching the SO4 and the SO5 for competition, but they were very high level in terms of cost, rates, so they were not so very oftenly used in the Olympic Games because of their cost, because they were over and unders with hand-built. Okay, the engraving were pretty, let's say, tailed.
Yeah, the SO4 is very minimal, but it is
exactly minimal, just the screws on the surface and nothing else. And then after that, the SO6, that it was launched in 1980s in order to let's say, to fill in a gap in the field sector, because the previous one was the SO3, and then the SO4, SO5 were for competition, so the SO6 for hunting, only in 12 gauge, and then the SO9, all side locks, that it makes the path for the SO10 launched at the beginning of the year 2000.
So most people will be aware that the Beretta Group own Holland and Holland now. This was made in 1960 and that relationship had potentially started, or something had happened.
Because of the reason I previously explained, Holland and Holland was the leader of the side-by-sides made in a particular way, with a side lock system, with chopper lamp barrel construction, and Beretta was on the counter side the leader for the over and unders that were employing the system for the monoblock. The monoblock is a kind of sleeve joining the 2 tubes inside and then welded on the rear part of a sleeve in order to create a solid construction, more resistant during the times and the use, and also stronger with the use of high pressure ammunition, for example. So thanks to this construction, they could also create, as we saw in the SO series, a lower receiver, slender, and low profile. It's probably due to these characteristics that Beretta proposed, or from their side, Holland asked to Beretta to explore the world of monoblock construction, because one of the characteristics of the over and unders from Holland and Holland from that period was, unfortunately, for the design and for the aesthetic point of view, the high receiver or action body, you can call it, because of the locking system, because of the structure of the side plates, because of the use of a chopper lamp.
It's unattractively deep.
Exactly. Chopper lamp or demi-block is good for side-by-sides, but the time we are talking about, it gives this characteristic of very high receiver.
So we have Holland and Holland on the bottom, Holland and Holland on the side, but you have Holland Beretta on the top.
Yeah, this is a unique piece. It was recalled by our former president that he was dealing with Holland and Holland in the mid of the 1960s in order to create this special common project. And this is the witness from that period, the only one existing, and as far as we know, never produced anymore in the future.
It is interesting to see a Holland and Holland made Beretta, or Beretta made Holland and Holland. And it's beautiful. It looks
was,
like you wouldn't fault it. It's got the Holland scroll. It's got a lot of Hollandy things about it, but then it's an SO.
Yeah, color case receiver. Then you have the crossbolt classical locking system adopted from Beretta that is going to engage the two lugs on the monoblock in order to make a more resistant lock system.
But you have a monoblock. You have the little line.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful piece of history.
Yeah, absolutely.
They have a lot of rifles here. Drace, Shazpo, Carcanos, Vetelis, and the list goes on and on. But we're not going to really look at too many of them, and I am sorry about that. But we are going to look at how we got to the Silver Pigeon today, because to be honest, finding out the actual accurate history of that is probably more fascinating to me.
The 80s were really about developing the over and unders, which were taking over from the side-by-sides, and sporting clays became a massive part of the gun trade. And then obviously carrying on building from there really, and it's been a great relationship. And in 2005, Beretta took a 20% stake, and then in 2013 they increased that to 60%. So GMK is a fully owned subsidiary of the Beretta Group, which includes all of Benelli and Seiko Tikka, Franchi, all of these brands. They've got money to invest, they're never afraid to invest. You've seen around here the machinery they've got, and it's incredible. And what sets Beretta apart is the fact that they run all these different over and under platforms. You know, you've got the 680, you've got the 694, then you've got the DT platform and the SL and the SO10s. And it's just having that, so you're not just moving up with added cosmetics to the product and better wood quality, you're getting a different chassis to the product. And they are all designed for different things, and they're, you know, solid, well-built, well-engineered designs, and it's a huge advantage for us. You get more as you move up through the price points. They are at the forefront of technology, and that's what they've built themselves on.
We move into the world of mass-produced guns. Everybody in the world who's ever encountered a shotgun has heard of a Beretta Silver Pigeon. Where does that story start?
Beretta started the mass-produced over and unders in 1947, when in that year patented a new, let's say, mechanism, new system, and also new locking system for an over and under, different from the ones that were, for example, employed later on the Boss Lock type shotgun. So this is called ASE.
He is of course referring to the ASE or ASE. The A is for the Anson and Dealey trigger mechanism, the S for sovrapposto, which means over and under, and the E for ejection. The original model was just an AS, with the E added a few years later. This gun is the forefather of the ASE Gold, the ASE 90, and the DT10 and 11 range of guns. The ASE, although highly machined, still took many hours of hand finishing and hand engraving, and Beretta wanted to go in a different direction.
In 1955, finally Beretta introduced, thanks also to the research and experimentation in the military field with the BM-59, the new assault rifle for the Italian army, that boasted the fact that they could have the interchangeability of the parts. So it was easier to produce, and it was also no fitting, no special matching between the parts, adjustable parts, because you had all the parts interchangeable. Okay. And Beretta launched in the field sector the model S55.
The S55 was launched in the mid-50s and was the basis for the S56, S57 and S58. Different models designed for either field or competition use. This series ran until 1979 and was built around the BM-59's concepts of interchangeable parts. This made spare parts easier to find, easier to fit, and most repairs more affordable.
Then it was featuring the dual conical lugs. Dual conical lugs that, differently from SO series and ASE, there was no cross bolt, but a simple system inside the monoblock. There were two recesses and dual conical lugs on the breech face of the receiver in order to engage the monoblock itself and make it strong, but at the same time cheap locking system and approachable for every hand.
That is Beretta. That is a Beretta original.
Yeah, this was one of the Beretta origin in order also to skip to avoid the construction of the crossbolt system that was not not very cheap in terms of final cost of a gun, but also for machining.
Machining and hand finishing has
exactly,
to be in place for
and
these
also
crossbolts.
this system, dual conical lugs, were more approachable for the hunters worldwide. That's why this was industrialized, machine totally made. They were using the rolling system for the engravings, for example, before lasering them, but in the recent times. And so it was something that was really also sold with a huge success in business also from the other part of the ocean in the US.
The S55 was marketed as cheaper than most semi-autos at the time, as most of these required a lot of hand regulation and fitting. However, it didn't take Beretta long to come out with the Model 60, and in 1958 the first gas-operated Beretta auto shotgun, built by machine, was launched.
So you make this for nearly 20-something years?
Yes, and they develop different finishing, for example, nickeling, chroming, bluing, so in order also to distinguish the line during the years. But as you can see, okay, from the top to the bottom, the line, it was maintained almost the same, so very clean receiver without any particular game scenes, characterized in the bottom of the receiver by this symbol that is also the symbol of the town of Brescia, which is the Nike, or Winged Victory. Mm-hmm. It was a famous Roman statue found in Brescia, and it was the symbol before the Three Arrows logo in Beretta, that it was adopted in 1949. The old Beretta logo was one of the symbols characterizing the receiver of the S55 on the bottom.
All right, so at some point things have to move on.
Exactly.
What was their thinking when they came out and launched?
Yeah, when the launch of the early, we are always talking about Beretta, with the early mobile choke tube systems, so the chokes that you could screw in, and you can also today screw in and screw out from the muzzle of the receiver, they probably pushed the, let's say, the engineering and the design department of a company to launch also a new model in terms of over and unders, making it much more also attractive and captivating, because
it does look a little
exactly
bland.
And in 1979 it was the year for the launch not only of the first choke systems, but also over and unders that it was called the 680.
The Model 680 was the basis for the Silver Pigeon we know and love today. It kept a lot of the design features from the S55 style guns, but with raised half side plates to give a more attractive shape to the action and a better canvas for engraving. By the mid-80s, the 680 series offered a full range of trap, skeet and sporting models, so that every worldwide sportsman would have a model of Beretta over and under they found approachable and relevant for them.
And this is what we have today in terms of industrial shotgun until the most recent 690, that even today 690, 692 for the competition and 694 the latest one, are all based on the first 680 launched in 1979.
That is a success story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here is a cracking example of full-barreled guns, or more importantly, barrel guns made by makers who are not Beretta. This is a pair of FAMAs, I believe a 28 bore and a 36 bore, made in 1981 and 1983, and that's topped by an Evo Fabry single-shot rifle. That's nice, but these excite me because I recently discovered about their existence, and then whilst researching it found that there was one, but apparently there's two in this museum. But it's not the only four-barrel guns. If you follow me back over here, and this is a proper crazy candy shop, you could spend probably weeks and weeks in here and not see everything, is this a Bouillet of Paris 4-barreled flintlock. 4 separate locks, 4 separate ignition systems, 4 separate barrels. That is wild gun making. Coming to a place like this does, well, for any gun lover, it's almost it's a bucket list tick off, isn't it? What an amazing thing that is. That 4-lock system, you wouldn't want to stock that. That is crazy. So shotgun's done. We are going to have a look at a few military arms before we finish. But let me impress upon you how crazy this room is. There are counters and counters filled with guns, which have drawers underneath filled with guns. For every gun on a wall, there's one on the floor. There's things you've never even seen. There's prototypes. There's one-offs. This is as close to heaven for a gun lover as you're gonna get. The Beretta 92 is probably one of the most famous pistols Beretta's ever made, but we're surrounded now by military rifles, past and present, made or modified by Beretta. Can you tell us a bit more?
Beretta started in 1500 to work military guns because the first barrels Beretta made were dedicated for the arsenals here in Italy and employed in the defense sector. Many decades later, or centuries we can say, Beretta started to produce sporting guns and field guns. But they wanted to keep also the part of the military sector, because military means a lot of funds from the military corps that would like to develop new materials and technology. So by keeping the military know-how, the defense sector in general, Beretta could also improve and transfer the same know-how in the technology to the field products. Even if today is only a small part of the company. Beretta is mainly working for the Italian Army and for the Italian police forces, but is also providing our products also to other countries worldwide, thanks also to an organization that we branded Beretta Defense Technologies, born in 2011. One of the best success ever, I could say also in the history of guns, is dedicated to the 92, also known as M9, Model 9, 9 stands for 9mm, that it was launched, let's say, late 1970s by the US Armed Forces in order to find a pistol, a handgun, could probably replace the Colt 45 1911. In 1985 he won the contract to replace the Colt 1911, not only for the US Armed Forces but also for the Navy, Air Force and the 22 state police in the US.
That was a good day.
And this one specifically is the one that we provided to the French Gendarmerie, because not only United States as a country acquired this pistol, but also Spain, Turkey, Philippines, many other states worldwide. We consider more than 5 million units sold worldwide in the commercial and the military market.
So this is used by the Italian military now?
It was first used by the Italian military because it was developed since 2004 with the design, research and development department of the Italian Army, and also partly sponsorized and financed by the Italian Army. By the way, it is characterized by the NATO caliber. So NATO caliber is 5.56 by 45, also called as .22 Remington, and it is provided with a 30-round magazine. So it boasts a frame in polymer, while the bolt and the barrel and the magazine are in steel. The Picatinny rail mounted on 360 degrees around the frame of the rifle permit to mount different accessories and devices that are offered by our sister companies, like immune system, laser devices, night cameras, scopes, radar systems. So these are completely in our full range of military offer at the moment on the market.
Hopefully you enjoyed that short charge through one of the most wonderful gun collections of all time. This room shows the long story of Beretta's commitment to guns of all kinds, and a visit should be on your bucket list. Today, in 2023, Beretta is still making some of the best guns in the world, be that shotguns, rifles, or pistols. But they have also spread out into other sectors, producing a wide range of accessories and clothing. Beretta itself as a company now holds much more than just the Beretta name. In its holding group are some of the world's finest products, including Benelli, Sacco, Chapuis, and Holland & Holland. They have also built dedicated stores called the Beretta Galleries in some of the coolest locations around the globe. More than anything on this trip, I learned that if you love guns, how can you not love Beretta?